This is the first video for Lecture 1. And in Lecture 1, we're looking at Chapter 1, and we're looking at just the general process of research in social work. So the first thing to ask ourselves and to work through is, why is social work and social work practice even concerned with research? We're concerned with helping people. Why do we have to sit down and worry about things as boring or as tedious as research? So there's kind of two general answers for that. One is the acquisition of knowledge. There's more that we want to learn, and then there's the idea of what we want to do with it. So think back to the word praxis that I introduced to you in the introduction video. We want to learn, right? So in social work, we want to make sure that we have objective information about what we're doing, who we're doing it with, as far as our clients and the issues that they have. But because social work is such a social justice-driven profession, we want to know what to do with that information. Unlike other forms of research that may be focused just on developing knowledge just for the sake of it, we really have because we're a profession, we want to do something with it. And so we want to do something with that in a way that helps deal with social problems. So it's that kind of push and pull of knowledge and action. It's really important then to kind of consider the differences in the subjective experiences of our clients and the subjective experiences of ourselves as professionals, as well as the objective. And the objective here doesn't mean that there's one person that can stand back and know the truth, but if we look at all cases and we look at all clinical experience and we try to look at it as a whole, what are the things that come up? That's kind of where the objective falls in, and kind of the collective view and where we converge. We are familiar generally with the scientific process. Hopefully you remember this from science fairs growing up, asking questions, making hypotheses, etc. But in social work, there's an extra layer to that, which is the skills. So it's not enough just to know kind of how to follow the scientific process. But what do you do with that? How do you really challenge what you know? How do you apply it into a program? How can you learn from it? What do you do with that? And so in social work research, we have very specific purposes for research. One is we want to use it for practice, right? So we're a profession. We want to know that we're using approaches that work. If you're working with youth, and there's certain approaches that work better than others. You also want to build knowledge. Maybe there's a preferred way to work with youth who are transgender that's more effective. So you want to use that to build that knowledge that can be shared. And you want to know you're being effective. You want to know that the work you're doing is actually going to make a difference. And that's probably one of the most common things that we see in social work research is we do a lot because it feels good or because our clients smile and they're appreciative. But if there's two programs, both of which clients seem to enjoy, but one of which makes a huge impact and the other one doesn't, we need to know that so that we make the best use of the limited resources that we have as a profession. So throughout history, we see then that research has kind of come from this experience of people that are helping and they want to learn basically the better and better ways to help. So research didn't just come up on its own. It was a direct result from just this desire to help. And it's embedded into the profession, into just statements like the Council on Social Work Education. So again, you see then the evolution. Here we have some issues. What are the problems that cause those issues? What do we do about them? And who's going to be affected? So you see how research continues to be tied in every step of the way to the people we're trying to help. A lot of the history of research you see will tie back to some of the early conditions that we see, especially for the poor in urban centers. That's where you see a lot of the increasing awareness of, wow, there's certain people who are dealing with unemployment, or they're dealing with homelessness in certain communities at higher rates than others, or there are people from certain ethnicities that are more at risk than others, or we're putting people in institutions and that's not really making a difference. And so you see those types of issues come up where people really started getting an interest in research to figure out what they could do to be more effective as social workers. Some of the early pioneers included work, for example, in jails and in prisons, trying to reform our mental health system. What worked? Getting people out of institutions. You see that in communities, like I mentioned. Are there certain communities where you see certain issues pop up, certain ethnicities of certain groups of immigrants that may deal with issues more than others? and sometimes just documenting it. If we don't see it, we don't know it, but if we can systematically document the different urban issues that we see in the cities, then we have a sense of not just the importance of the issue, but of how the issue works. What does it look like? What are people experiencing? And all of those, believe it or not, are research. Research is not just numbers and statistics. Sometimes it's photos that are expressed in an objective and systematic fashion to send a message.